Shalom WJC family. It's time for our weekly Torah talk. This week in synagogue we'll read Parshat Lech Licha, the story of God coming to Avram and telling him, Lech Licha, get up and go out of the place where you are and go to the place that I will show you, which will be Canaan. And there is where you will start your ministry. Start telling people there's only one God. But the truth is, Abraham's story did not start where he was when we come to Lech Licha in Haran. He's kind of halfway to Canaan. He left Ur with his family sometime earlier, Ur of the Chaldeans, which is closer to Babylonia. And the question the rabbis ask is, why did Abraham have to leave where he was in Haran to go to ultimately Shechem and Canaan? There's a very interesting answer to this that I think teaches us a little something about faith as well. So the Midrash, those are the rabbinic teachings around the story, not necessarily to tell the truth of the story. A lot of Midrashim contradict each other about the history of our ancestors, but they are to give messages, to tell us truths about our ancestors. So one such midrash says that the wicked king Nimrod threw Avram into a fire to test him, to try and get him to accept the local gods. Abraham could not be turned, and God saved him miraculously from the fire. He came forth out of the furnace totally unsinged. And because of that, we're told, the locals were like, oh, this God of Abraham, that God must be really special, and we should all convert to be like part of Abraham's tribe. So things are going great for Abraham. And God comes along and says, Lech Licha, get up and go out of this place. This is not the place for you to do this work. So the question is, why? Things are already going so well. And one answer that's given is that the acceptance of the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, is not supposed to rely on miracles. Right? On the one hand, we believe in miracles. On the other hand, it shouldn't take a miracle to bring us to faith. Judaism is a cerebral religion. We ask questions, we explore, we challenge. We challenge each other, and we challenge the text. And through that, we find our way towards knowledge for how to be in the world, but also knowledge of the divine and the sacred. Somewhere in our conversation with the text and the conversation with each other about the text, as Rosenzweig and Buber talked about it in their introduction to their translation of the Bible, when we trip over these difficult passages and we find ourselves in conversation with something above the text itself, that's where we find the divine, in these rational pursuits. And that's what Maimonides said, and that's what I read most recently in Reb Israel Salanter, that we shouldn't take a miracle to convince us that there is something more going on in the world than we can necessarily sense physically or scientifically. It shouldn't take a miracle to turn us to faith. Faith, it's not faith in the supernatural. Faith is faith in the world as we find it, that there is beauty here and holiness here, and that whatever is going on around us, we can find that space to celebrate, to enjoy our relationships with each other, helping someone in need, turning together towards something holy in prayer or in ritual. All of these things are ways to sort of take the world as we know it and bring forth the holy, bring forth the beautiful. That is what Judaism teaches us. So Abraham could not stay in Haran, where all the people were now, it's going to take a miracle every time someone has a doubt about God? No, Abraham wanted to start a religion where doubt was welcome, where faith was a process that goes on for an entire lifetime, that we could see the challenges in the world around us and still find our way to the divine within the world as we found it. And that is why Abraham, according to this interpretation, had to leave Haran, had to leave the place of Nimrod, and where this miracle happened on Avram's behalf, and come to Canaan, where he would start a ministry that is never based on miracles. Later in the Torah, sure, Moses is going to use some miracles to convince some of the Israelites that he's truly coming on behalf of God. God uses miracles sometimes to convince Moses at the burning bush or the people at the fiery mountain at Mount Sinai. But Abraham, he uses hospitality and generosity and defense of the captives and loyalty to his family and an upholding of justice and what is good and right in the world. Those are his miracles. Those are how Abraham makes his points in Canaan. And through that ministry and through that connection and reflection in the world, that's how Abraham builds his flock of believers in the one true God. And it's an important message for us today as well. Both personally, that we shouldn't be looking for miracles in order to inspire our faith. That's not necessarily where we're going to find God or our connection to the divine or our connection to that which is holy. And also, written more largely, how we should be in the world. Being the B'nai Abraham, being the children of Abraham means being hospitable, looking for justice, helping to highlight that which is beautiful and holy in our connections with each other, with our family, with our friends, with our neighbors, bringing forth that which is good in the world. That is the best ministry. That is the best path to the divine. That is the way that our ancestor Abraham, that is the path that our ancestor Abraham set us upon when he set out on his path in this Parshat Lech Licha. I wish us all a beautiful and meaningful journey, and I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.